Good morning, my friends. This is Paul, and tonight I'm going to be reviewing to you We Should Talk for the Nintendo Switch. This is a narrative-driven game that's obviously made by an indie company, because why else would they have these blocky, ugly graphics? And you're basically either talking to people at a bar or talking to your girlfriend on the cell phone, and in order to progress the dialogue, you need to construct a sentence. You have 2 or 3 phrases that you need to combine together to create a statement, and depending on your choices, you get about 9 different endings and branching dialogue paths. This concept seems really ingenious, and that was actually one of the main reasons why I decided to pick this up, was because I thought it would be super cool to try to find the exact right way to make a sentence. However, I assumed that this would be a grammar simulator and not a choice simulator. I figured that maybe if I did the grammatically incorrect answer, that would get me a bad ending. However, because most of the game's conversations are over a phone, the grammar is going to automatically be what I call the lazy font, because a lot of people, they don't try to do punctuation when they send texts. They'll not capitalize people's names and not use periods or commas where there should be. And overall, that was just really off-putting in a game where you're supposed to be making sentences. Also, the graphics are insanely ugly. This is an indie game. They probably didn't have too great of a budget. And the music is mostly forgettable background elevator type music. While it is fun to sort out the sentences, it is pretty obvious what you're supposed to do next if you have any sense of morality. Now, I get it. There are people that'll play this game that'll want the fun route, and there's 9 possible endings, so I'm sure you could get what you want. I got the first ending in about 15 minutes, and my second playthrough took 12. So this is a very short game, but I think they intend for you to replay it multiple times so that you can get all the endings. But honestly, I don't really see the point, because I don't think the game changes enough to warrant all those endings. You're still going to have the same conversations with the same people, and the same basic topics are going to come up. They just might come in a different order, or the characters' reactions to you will change depending on what you say to them. And that's basically it. You don't really walk around at all, you just make sentences. You can use profanity, you can have a more aggressive personality, or you can choose a gentler personality. One of the biggest beefs I had with the narrative is that this is not the kind of game where you can feel like you can express yourself very well. Well, it's true that you make the sentences, you don't create your character, and you don't really have any say in the narrative. You sort of feel like you're someone else, but controlling their mind, as opposed to how they look or how they act. You actually play as, at least I assume, this is a very outside-the-box type of story, but you actually play as a lesbian girl who's in a relationship, but I think she might also be bisexual because she had a previous relationship with another guy, and she's hit on by guys in the bar. I mean, it's a 15-minute game, for crying out loud. I don't think it's possible for me to talk about this without going into spoiler territory, but it's very M-rated, and it deals with some fairly mature topics, although compared to the M-rated games I've played before, this is actually ridiculously tame. If it hadn't been for the disclaimers at the beginning of the game that the publishers themselves put out, and the eShop descriptions, I probably would have taken this as more of a T-rated game, because it's fairly imaginative, sort of make what you will of the dialogue given to you, except unlike games like Gone Home or What Remains of Edith Finch, everything is based on words as opposed to pictures and images. There's no voice acting, you can't really choose the music, and there's not really too many options either, but just besides just how fast the text goes. Overall, I feel like the concept is amazing, but the execution and the story are just too bland to warrant this sticking around for too long. Maybe if there was a day system where the story take place over a bunch of weeks as opposed to just a single night or an hour, however long it takes in-game time, maybe if the graphics were better, maybe if the music was more appropriate, maybe if it wasn't just in a bar, maybe if you could actually choose your own gender or your own orientation. I think player choice should be a lot more emphasized in this kind of narrative. And I'm not just saying that because I'm Catholic. Yes, in the Catholic Church, we don't approve of homosexual or bisexual activity, not to be confused with the attractions themselves. But honestly, I didn't feel like the character's sexual orientation made much of a difference in the narrative. I didn't feel like, even though I'm a heterosexual dude, I didn't feel like I was playing as a lesbian girl at all. I felt like I was being authentic to myself in my responses as best as I could with the procedurally generated stuff. And I'd like to think being true to myself got me an ending that I would have gotten with another heterosexual female had I been in a relationship with her. In fact, I actually based a lot of my first responses on my initial relationship, and it got me the best ending. So I presume that real life common courtesy skills would really come in handy here. But considering its super short length and overall just lack of substance, I mean, this was obviously made fairly in a rush and not too much effort. So I would say if you're interested in this type of choose your own narrative, there are definitely better games than this, like Zero Escape if you want the M-rated series or scale. And even if you are going to pick this up, I would wait until it's very, very, very much on sale. I picked this up for $7, and I think that's not worth it at all for the short amount of time I played it. I think more like $1 or less would be the most that I would think you would spend on this. So because this came out in 2020, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 20. It's a genius concept. Otherwise, I probably would have given it more like a 2 out of 20. But it's just so dull and predictable and not really a whole lot of fun. Unless you really, really like your waifu simulators, even though this isn't waifu, I don't know. I feel like there's way better options out there. If you're on a budget, maybe, but otherwise just stick to something more grand. With that, thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and I hope if you're watching this and you actually are able to text me, please use proper grammar, because I would go crazy if I talked like the two of them do on their phone. Bye-bye.